Hello, friend, and welcome to the 10-Minute Mind Shift Podcast. I'm your host, Janet Cagle, certified life coach, business strategist, and lover of all things related to up-leveling my life and yours. My goal is to help you experience a mind shift that gets you one step closer to your goals, whatever they are. My goal is not to keep you wrapped up in self-help all day, just 10 minutes. And who doesn't have 10 minutes, right? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the 10-Minute Mind Shift Podcast. This is episode 8. This is the second part of Decision Thoughts and a companion to last week's episode. In this episode, I'm going to share with you a personal story so that I can illustrate 6 lessons for creating the outcomes of your heart's desire. First of all, I want to make it very clear to all of you listening that Steve and I are not unicorns. We are people just like you. We have the same kind of thoughts you do, similar struggles, all the things. Sometimes when we hear other people's personal stories, we tend to think that they are special and that we could never do that, whatever that is. But I want you to know, and it's very important to me that you hear this part loud and clear, we are just like you. And that, my friends, is what makes anything possible for you. Whatever you want to create in your life, it is possible. So here we go. 2 years ago, May 2018, we decided to move to Florida. Now, many factors went into making that decision, like job opportunities, dressage opportunities that didn't require 6 hours of travel one way, access to trainers, all the things. We landed on the decision of Florida. It's important for you to know this part, though. We had only been to Florida twice, once for my daughter's wedding and once for a conference. That's it. Another thing that's important for you to know is that we also decided the same decision in 2016. In 2016, we decided that Oklahoma was not going to be where we retired. We had the idea that we could actually move to our retirement destination now, work for 10 years, and then retire. We actually planned to visit and plan vacations around checking out some destinations, planned a 5K in Florida, and then our brains showed up. The primal part of the brain that loves to keep us in the cave. The part of the brain that says, how on earth could you find jobs that pay what you're making? You love the people you work for now and work with now. How could you ever leave them? How could you ever find what you have in Oklahoma with 10 acres? How can you even comprehend moving horses and dogs and 2 barns full of stuff halfway across the country? We quickly got into what I call how energy, and we talked ourselves out of it. I had made a list of all of the things that I would want for my horses if we moved to Florida, and that list looked so daunting and impossible to create in Florida that I just stopped thinking about it. I started justifying my how energy as being practical and playing safe and being responsible. In my mind, I started thinking of all of the reasons that moving to Florida was impossible. So we decided to suck it up and stay in Oklahoma until we retired. About that time, I found life coaching. I didn't even know there was such a thing before then. So I started doing lots of thought work and mindset work, and fast forward 2 more winters in Oklahoma, and we brought up the topic again. And this time, we both decided that anything is possible and nothing is too good to be true. I grew up with the notion that if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. That, my friends, is a lie. It's a lie to keep you from dreaming and doing the things that you want to do. It's a lie to keep you in the cave. Now, I'm not going to say that the notion of moving to Florida wasn't scary. It was. But it was also exciting and energizing, and we were curious how it was all going to work out and what would it look like? What would it be like? So you might be thinking that we jumped on a plane and started scouting out places. Nope. We just focused on the what. We didn't get all wrapped up in the how or the where. We only focused on the what. Within a few days of making that decision to move to Florida, the company that Steve worked for merged with a company in Florida. Like within 10 days, we both had the thought that this might be how. When things like this happen, we also tend to think that it's the universe telling us that we made the right decision, right? Here is lesson number 1. There is no right decision, and there's no wrong decision as long as you love your reason for the decision. And we loved our reason. So Steve did approach the CEO and let the company know that we had an interest in moving, and they were ecstatic, and they said yes. Here's lesson number 2. Don't get emotionally attached to the how, just the what. Although they loved the idea, it never got traction. And had we relied on that as being our how, we might still be in Oklahoma. But we refused to be confused about how this was going to work out. We just got curious about the how. Humans can get very worked up with how energy, and it feels terrible. How energy is needy and graspy, and it comes from a scarcity mindset. And so we were committed to anything is possible, and we started talking about the possibility of a company that would move us to Florida. Steve got curious about the job market in Florida, and within a few weeks, he had 3 interviews and a decision to make. In the meantime, I started looking at the possibility of doing what I do for the company that I love so much and doing it from Florida. I started seeing how that could be possible. Had I decided that Hal looked like me looking for another job, I would have missed out on the magic of how things just work out. So within weeks of deciding on Florida, Steve had a job. My supervisor said, just do what you do from Florida. And the next step was to sell the house and buy a house. Here is lesson number 3. All of the obstacles that are between where you are now and the outcome that you want to create are the way. They are the path. They are the journey that you must go on. They are not the reason not to go on the journey. So many times we look at all of the things in our way as the reason we don't do something. What is in the way, my friends, is the way. Our obstacles were jobs, homes, the logistics of moving a 10-acre farm. That was all of the things that was in the way, but it was also the way. Each day, we moved the needle and solved for overcoming each one of the obstacles, step by step and day by day, with the conscious thought that anything is possible and nothing is too good to be true. Was everything rainbows and daisies? No. Living your dream doesn't mean everything always goes your way. Life is 50-50, even when creating the life of your dreams. Always. So many times when things start going south, we automatically blame ourselves for making the wrong decision again. Remember, there are no wrong decisions. Even when they don't work out in our favor, it does not make the decision wrong as long as you love your reason for the decision. One of the decisions that I made when it came time to list the house was that I was going to do it myself. I had the idea that I wanted the commission, and I'd had my real estate license in the past, so I felt equipped, and I wanted the commission. Within days of that decision, I realized that I did not love my reason for that decision. It was made from a place of insufficiency, scarcity, and lack. So here's lesson number 4. You cannot create abundance from a place of scarcity and lack. An abundant mindset is what creates abundance. A scarcity mindset creates more scarcity. And so at one point, I told Steve, the next realtor that reached out to me is going to be blessed with our listing. They don't have to sell me on them. They just get to come list our house. I loved my reason for that decision, and within minutes, someone pinged me about the price and was there room if he brought me a deal. I said yes, and you get to come list our house if you'd like. If you're a realtor, you understand the gift of a response like that. He came out, listed our house. He was in awe. He even suggested we listed for a higher price than I originally thought. And so who doesn't like that? I was pretty excited about this decision, but within days, the house still wasn't listed and he wasn't returning my calls. We were in the process of making an offer on a house in Florida, and we really needed him to coordinate with our realtor in Florida, and it just wasn't happening. So you might be thinking that I made the wrong decision. Remember lesson number 1, there are no wrong decisions as long as you love your reason for the decision. I loved my reason. Even though it didn't work out in my favor, I still loved my reason. It came from good energy. So when you're faced with something that isn't going your way, what do? You make a decision that will move the process forward. That's it. You don't place blame, point fingers, or contemplate the decision that you made being right or wrong. You just take the next best step forward. So many times we look at this kind of thing as a sign that we've made the wrong decision. And we start thinking things like, I guess it's not meant to be. And I want you to know that's just not the case. It's an obstacle, yes, but obstacles are how we learn and how we grow and how we become resilient and how we become clever at problem solving. Without a problem to solve, we learn nothing. Now, don't get me wrong. Steve and I don't sit around hoping for a problem to solve for our growth. Not at all. But what we do is decide what moves us forward. What's the next best step? In this case, the move forward was to call the broker, tell him what happened, and ask for the listing to be moved. We believed in the possibility that our house would sell, and it did, over asking price within a day of being listed. Here is lesson number 5. Plan for the obstacles, prepare for and anticipate what could happen, and solve for them all, and then leave room for the magic. A couple of weeks before we moved, I contacted the HOA to find out the details of the neighborhood association and what all was included. What I learned blew my mind. Turns out we had bought into an equestrian community with a community barn 7 minutes away from our house, 2 barns, a lit arena, 15 miles of trails, and we could rent stalls for $50 per horse. What? If you have a horse, you know what a blessing that was. We thought we would have to board until we got our property fenced. Board in Florida is between $500 and $800 per horse. This was mind-blowing, but what I'm going to share with you now is where the magic lies. Lesson number 6, write down what you want, and here is why. You are 42% more likely to create an outcome that you write down. A few weeks after we were unpacked, I was preparing for a workshop, and I found a notebook full of my workshop notes, and it had a page marked with a sticky note, so I opened it up to that page. Remember that list that I told you about that I created in 2016, the list created from a scarcity mindset? Well, on that list was the following: stalls, hay storage, tack room, lit arena, close to trails, a covered area for my horse trailer, which we didn't even have in Oklahoma, by the way. But the other thing on that list is what blew my mind. When I lifted the sticky note that was marking the page, it revealed 2 words that I don't even remember ever thinking, let alone writing it down. The 2 words, equestrian community. Everything on that list we had created in our lives after all. When we believed in the possibility of finding the perfect home for us, we did, and for less than we anticipated paying, and with more than we ever dreamed of. We also bought it online, sight unseen. When we believed in the possibility that we could sell all the stuff in our 2 barns and our house down to a 16-foot pod, that's exactly what we did. We believed in the possibility that moving across the country with 4 dogs and 2 horses would be an adventure, and that we could create memories and stories worth sharing. It was, and we did. Now, this story is full of possibility and magic, and I don't want to leave you with the impression that it was all unicorns and daisies and rainbows. It wasn't, but we never let the other 50% of the time make us think that we had made the wrong decision. And that is the message that I want you to hear loud and clear. Whatever outcome you want to create, it is possible. Is it easy? No, but it's possible, and in fact, as long as you don't quit, it's inevitable. So I know this episode is longer than 10 minutes this time, but I think you'll agree it was totally worth the time. That's a wrap of the 10-Minute Mind Shift podcast. I hope that you were able to experience your own mind shift today. Listen, if you're ready to take this work to the next level, I highly recommend Life by Design Academy. It's my one-on-one coaching program that offers you a transformation at the speed of life.